Hello guys, I hope you all are doing good. I am Vaishali Kikan from Vaishali's e-learning and we are discussing physics. So we are now starting with the next chapter of the physics, that is the properties of the sound wave. So we are going to discuss in detail the various properties which are related to the sound, right? We are going to talk in detail about the human ear as well. So let's start our discussion with the basics. What is sound first of all? What is sound? Sound is also a form of energy, right? In the energy chapter I told you sound is a form of energy. It is produced by rapidly vibrating objects. When the object is vibrating, the sound energy is produced and it can be heard by the human ear, right? We are going to talk in detail about human ear, that how sound is heard with the help of the human ear. Coming to the two types of sound, infrasonic sound and the ultrasonic sound. Infrasonic sound is a sound which is having a frequency lower than the threshold of human hearing. Human hearing is having a threshold from 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz or 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. So below that, whatever sound is present below 20 Hz, that is the minimum threshold where we can hear any voice. Humans can hear any voice. So the sound which is having frequency lower than this threshold of human hearing, that is frequency less than 20 Hz, is the infrasonic sound. On the other hand, the ultrasonic sound are the sound with a frequency which is greater than the threshold of human hearing. So the sound which are having the frequency greater than 20,000 Hz are the ultrasonic sound. We are going to talk in detail about the ultrasonic sound as well later in this video itself. So now what are going to sound do to us, to human ear? It is going to stimulate the auditory nerve, and when the auditory nerve is stimulated, it is sending the signal from the ear to the brain. So as soon as we are getting vibration on the ear, the vibration on the ear will stimulate the auditory nerve. How it is done, I am going to tell you when I will be talking about the functioning of human ear, right? So it is going to stimulate the auditory nerve, which is acting like a carrier which transmits the electrical signal from the human ear to the brain, and brain decodes what is said, right? So now this figure shows the visible vibration of guitar string. Guitar strings, you can see when the sound is coming out from the guitar strings, the vibrations are visible. You can see the next figure. Here we have the electric bell in vacuum. So when the electric bell was ringing in the vacuum, so no sound was heard. When there was medium, physical medium present, air or any other medium, water or any other medium present inside the jar, that time we can hear the sound of the electric bell. Whereas if there is a vacuum in this jar, no sound will be heard, which means the sound energy requires some medium to travel. If the medium is not present, sound energy will not travel. Right, so now you can see the next figure. Over here we have a tuning fork that is hit by a rubber hammer. When I hit the rubber hammer, with the help of rubber hammer, I am hitting the tuning fork. What will happen? You can see the part A of this figure where we have the side view of the tuning fork. The part B shows that the prongs are coming together. Part C shows that the prongs are spreading apart, and the part D shows we have a longitudinal waves from a tuning fork. So longitudinal waves are coming out of the tuning fork. It is shown in the figure. So we have the rarefaction and the compression which are in the same direction where the wave is traveling. So the wave is having the different properties in the particles in the same direction where the wave is traveling. This is a longitudinal wave. Now you can see the next figure. Here we have the schematic representation of the density of molecule, how rarefaction and compression are formed in the air with the help of this tuning fork, right, or any other kind of sound wave. So now you can see the figure. Over here you can see one wavelength is the distance between the midpoint of the successive compression or rarefaction. If I take successive compression or rarefaction, if I take two equivalent points on the compression and the rarefaction, the distance between two equivalent points on the compression or rarefaction is the wavelength. Coming to the pitch. Pitch is the perception of highness or lowness of a sound. If the sound is high or low, we can perceive it with the help of the pitch. So pitch will depend primarily upon the frequency of the sound. So male are having different pitch, females are having different pitch. So we can hear the voice of a male, the voice of a female, and we can distinguish that this voice is coming from a male or female. How we are going to distinguish it? Based upon the frequency. If I have a higher frequency sound, we will be having higher pitch. So females are having higher pitch sound or higher frequency sound than males. This is how we can actually distinguish, human brain can distinguish that this sound is coming from a male or a female. Now coming to the speed of sound. The speed of sound is represented as V. It is equal to 332 meter per second plus 0.59 meter per second upon degree Celsius multiplied with T. So as the air temperature increases, the speed of sound will increase, as speed of sound is directly dependent upon the temperature of the air. When the temperature of the air is 0, so that time speed of the sound is 332 meter per second. As the temperature increases, speed of sound will increase. Again, the speed of sound will depend upon the medium, right? So the speed of sound will depend upon the medium through which the sound is traveling. The speed of sound would be more in a solid medium than the air. So sound will travel with a faster speed in solid than the liquid and then the air. So air will be having the lowest speed of sound. So now how we are calculating the speed of the sound in the medium? With the help of the echoes produced with the given medium. So when I have the echo produced by the sound, with the help of the time interval produced for a given echo, that is required to find out the velocity or the speed of the sound in the given medium. Coming to the next parameter, that is the sound intensity. Sound intensity is the power of the sound per unit area in watt per meter square. When I find out the power of the sound in watt per meter square, that is giving me the sound intensity. Decibel. Decibel is a unit to measure sound intensity level. Sound intensity was measured as a power of sound. If I am talking about sound intensity level, it is found in the SI unit dB. Sound intensity was found in the SI unit watt per meter square, and decibel is a unit to measure sound intensity level. Sound intensity level is measured in decibel, and 0 decibel is equal to 10 raised to power minus 12 watt per meter square. Now you can see the figure here. We have represented the sensitivity of average human ear to the different frequencies, right? How the different frequencies are changing our sensitivity, right? So now you can see the next figure over here. We can see as the sound moves out from a source, its energy is spreading more and more thinly. So as the sound is moving away from the source, its energy will be moving in a thin manner, right? So if I am near to the source, I will be having more intensity of the sound. You can see the next figure over here. We have the graph of the sound intensity versus distance, and you can see the sound intensity is decreasing exponentially, almost exponentially, when you are increasing the distance from the source. Now for the humans, threshold of hearing is 0 dB and threshold of pain is 130 dB. Above 130 dB we will experience some sensation of pain, and at 0 dB we can have the normal hearing for a person who is having best type of hearing system. Mostly we have the hearing at a 5 dB level, right? So the human ear, now we are going to talk in detail about the human ear. The human ear is composed of 3 parts. First is the outer ear, second is the middle ear, and third is the inner ear. You can see the figure of the human ear, right? So first of all, I am going to talk about the outer ear. The outer ear is composed of an external ear, which is called as pinna, right, and an auditory canal. So the external ear, the work of the external ear is the collection of the sound. The sound will be collected by the external ear. Now it travels from the auditory canal to the eardrum. Now with the help of this auditory canal, the sound waves, vibrations are traveling to the eardrum, right? So if I'm talking about the young adult, which is having the hearing range in 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz, the auditory canal will magnify the frequency between 2000 and 5500 by 10 factor. So if I have the frequency in between this range 2000 hertz to 5500 hertz, so the signal is coming to my ear in this frequency range 2000 hertz to 5500 hertz. So the auditory canal will, what it will be doing, it will magnify this range of the sound by factor of 10, because mostly we are talking in this range of frequencies only. This is the best range of frequency in which humans are interested, and this is the natural phenomena by which this range of frequency is amplified so that we can hear the sound very properly if the sound is in this frequency range 2000 and 5500 hertz. Right. So now coming to the middle ear. Middle ear is separated from the outer ear with the help of a part which is called as the eardrum. Now what is the eardrum? Eardrum is a tough, tightly stretched membrane. It's a membrane which is having the thickness less than 0.1 micrometer. So it's a membrane which is very tightly stretched and it is a tough membrane, right? And based upon this membrane we have the hearing, right? Most of the people will experience the rupture in the eardrum when they put something sharp in their ear. So sometimes this eardrums will rupture and this may lead to the hearing loss of the person as well. So now eardrum will vibrate by the compression and the rarefaction. So as soon as from the auditory canal the vibrations are reaching to the eardrum, vibrations will be in the form of compression and rarefaction in the air. So as soon as eardrum is having the compression and rarefaction from the vibration, the compression will push the eardrum inside, whereas rarefaction will make it move outside. So we will be having a vibration in the eardrum with the same frequency as the vibration of the source. So eardrum is having the same vibration that the source was having, right? So if I am the source, I am making some sound with some frequency. If you are having your ear and your eardrum is having some output frequency of the vibration with which I am speaking will be having the same frequency with the vibration that your eardrum is producing, so that you can listen to my voice. So now inside the eardrum we have three interlocking bones, and these names are really important from the exam point of view. So now we have three interlocking bones called the hammer. Hammer is also called as the malleus. Then we have the anvil, which is called as the incus, and then we have a stirrup. Stirrup is called as a stapes. Right, so we have three bones: hammer, anvil and the stirrup, which is called as malleus, incus and stapes, right? So now we are moving now towards the interlocking bone and their detailed discussion. So what the interlocking bones are doing, they are transmitting vibrations to the inner ear, right? Whatever vibration the eardrum is producing, the vibrations from the eardrum are transmitted to the inner ear with the help of the interlocking bones. The interlocking bones again magnify the pressure variation by a factor of 18. It will magnify the intensity of the vibration ultimately by a factor of 18, because the pressure variations are made with the help of the eardrum. When the eardrum is moving in and out, there is a pressure variation that is made inside the ear, right? So this pressure variation will make the vibration inside the ear, and this vibration we can actually hear, right? How these vibration from the pressure variation we can hear. Now let's understand this. So interlocking bones are transmitting vibration to the inner ear. They are magnifying the pressure variations by a factor of 18. The pressure variations are now magnified. The middle ear cavity is connected to the mouth, right, with the help of the Eustachian tube. So Eustachian tube is a tube which is connecting the middle ear to our mouth. So as you are swallowing something, so that time we have the opening in the Eustachian tubes, and we will be having the equalization of the air pressure in the middle ear, right? So as you yawn, you will be having the equalization of the air pressure in the middle ear with the help of Eustachian tube. So it is normally closed but open during the swallowing as well as yawning. If somehow this tube is blocked, might be blocked due to a cold you have, and that time we will not be having the pressure equalization in the middle ear, and when I'm not having the pressure equalization I can experience pain in the ear. So when you have extreme cold you experience pain in your ear as well. This is why, because you are not having the pressure equalization in your ear, right? Also you can have the hearing which is affected. Your hearing can be temporarily affected due to that, right? So sometimes when you are having severe cold your hearing is also affected. So now we have the stirrup. Stirrup was the third bone that we had. So now stirrup is transmitting the eardrum vibration to the threshold of inner ear at the oval window, right? So this is the main bone which is transmitting the vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear, right? So the transmitting of the vibration from eardrum to the inner ear at oval window is done by the stirrup. So now the vibration over here are the pressure waves. Now these pressure waves are present in a fluid which is filled in the ear's cochlea, right? So ear's cochlea is having fluid which is filled inside it, and in this fluid we have some pressure variations because the stirrup has transmitted the vibrations to it, and in the cochlea we have the pressure variation. So cochlea is a snail shaped organ which is around 3 cm long, and it is divided into 2 equal sections in upside and downside. So cochlea is a snail shaped organ, right? It is 3 cm long and divided into equally half sections upside and downside. Waves are moving in the cochlea and it is causing 23,000 microscopic hair to vibrate which are present inside the cochlea. Inside the cochlea we have 23,000 microscopic hair. Obviously not exactly 23,000, around 23,000 microscopic hairs are present inside the cochlea. These are vibrating when there is a pressure variation inside the cochlea. When the waves are traveling inside the cochlea, the hair will have the vibrations, and the hair vibrations are converted into the mechanical motion of the hair, right? So each hairs will convert the mechanical motion of the hair into the electrical signal. Because of the pressure variations, hair will be having the mechanical motion, right? And because of the mechanical motion of the hair, we will get the electrical signal. This electrical signal is sent to the auditory nerve, and from this auditory nerve this electrical signal is sent to the brain. And now how brain is decoding these vibrations or these electrical signals, there is nothing very clear about it. Brain is a very complex organ of our body, right? So I hope you understood how the ear is working, right? So now we have the semicircular canals in the inner ear which are hard fluid filled loops, right? These are called as the miniature accelerometers. Why? Because these are sending the electrical signal to the brain for balance. Now these semicircular canals are the mini accelerometers which are sending the balancing electrical signals to the brain. You can see the figure over here. We have represented the sensitivity of human ear as a function of frequency, right? So 50 dB sound is the minimum intensity which is audible. I told you 20 dB is just the sound which is heard by very few people which are having very good auditory mechanism and very good hearing mechanism inside them, right? So 50 dB is the sound that is the minimum intensity which is audible to all of us, right? So you can see the figure here. We have the 3 basic hearing aid designs. So the person who cannot listen directly, they are having some hearing aid devices. We are having the hearing aid device. You can see in the figure, first type of hearing aid device is present behind the ear, and the second is inside the ear, and the third device is present as a cochlear implant, right? So you can see and distinguish between these 3. So the range of hearing will diminish with the age as well, or it will diminish with the continuous exposure to the loud sound. When the people are working in the industry where they are in the continuous exposure of the larger sound, they tend to have the hearing loss at an older age more, right? And at the older age we will get some hearing loss also naturally as well. Now coming to the echo. Echo is the reflected sound wave which is reflected from the hard surfaces, right? So as soon as sound reaches the hard surfaces, this sound will reflect back toward us. You must have observed at some mountain regions that when you are shouting, your voice is coming back towards you. This is an echo. Now coming to the sonar. Sonar is a system that uses the transmitted as well as reflected underwater sound wave to locate objects and measure the distance to the bottom of the water body. So sonar is a system that is used to measure how upside the surface we have the ship. So it tells me what is the height of the ship from the ground, right, and the depth of the ground inside the sea, and also it tells me where the fishes are, right? So sonar, what it is using, it is transmitting the sound, and when the sound is reaching to the hard surface, either the fish bones or it is reaching to the ground, they are reflected back, right? We know the sound will reflect back from the hard surface. When this sound is reflected back, so the time interval in between the reflected and the transmitted sound will tell me what is the position of the object. It is used to measure the distance of the bottom of the water body. You can see the figure where we have the sonar image of a sunken ship. We can make the images with the help of this sonar waves as well. The sonar waves are used to make, the sonar technology is used to make the image of a sunken ship. Now you can see the next figure. Over here you can see we have a transducer at the bottom of the ship. The transducer is converting the electrical signal we are sending to the transducer to the sound signal. So now from the transducer we are getting the sound signal which is moving inside the water. So the frequency is 30 Hz. After the 30 Hz interval we are sending the sound wave inside the water. Now these reflected pulse would be observed as soon as the sound will reach to the object or any other ground surface. So sound wave will reflect back. So reflected pulses are observed with the help of the underwater microphone, which is also known as the hydrophone, which tells me the time interval in between the transmitted and the reflected signal, and in result it tells me what is the depth, right? Now coming to the phenomena of echolocation. Echolocation is the location of the object through the analysis of the reflected sound. So a lot of animals are doing echolocation, like the sharks are doing the echolocation, the bats are doing the echolocation to search their food, right? So echolocation is the location of object using the reflected sound, right, using the echo. Coming to the ultrasound. Ultrasound is a technology which is used in the medical fields as well. So it is used to diagnose as well as treat some of the diseases. So ultrasound, you can see we have a reflected wave. Reflected wave, we are sending the ultrasound. What was the ultrasound? Ultrasound was the sound wave which is having the frequency more than 20,000 Hz. When I am sending the sound with a frequency more than 20,000 Hz, it will penetrate the human body, right? It will penetrate the human body, it will reach to the hard surfaces and it is reflected by the hard surfaces. The reflected waves are observed with the help of microphone and it will tell me where the tissue with the different density is present. So we can find out the time interval in between the incident ultrasound wave and the reflected ultrasound wave, and this tells me the calculations of the distance. So we can find out what is the distance of the which tissue which is present, right? So we can find out the location of bones, right? It is similar to the X-ray, but it is better than X-ray. So you can see the figure here. We have the ultrasound photo of the twins. Now coming to the diffraction of the sound wave. So diffraction of the sound wave, you can see in the figure, the diffraction of the sound wave is produced where the sound wave is encountering any obstruction, right? So over here you can see we have the two rooms and the doorway is differentiating one room with the two rooms. So in the room one we have the sound, and the sound when reaches to the doorway, it is reflected and it is reaching to the room 2. Coming to the figure, here you can see we have the sound wave which are refracted in the same manner as the light wave. You can observe the refraction of the sound wave in a similar manner as we have studied about the light wave. Refraction on the sound wave on the warmer and the cooler air you can observe. So when I have the warmer air upside and the cooler air downside, when I have the cooler air upside and the warmer air downside, you can see we have the different propagation path of the sound wave. So sound wave will move its direction, right, based upon the temperature of the air, because on the temperature of the air, speed of sound is dependent. We already know this thing, right? Coming to the interference, you can see in the figure here we have sound wave which is having the interference between the two loudspeaker which are vibrating in phase. So if I have two loudspeaker which are vibrating in the phase, so the waves which are produced by them, sound waves which are produced by them, will be behaving similarly like the light wave, and they will produce the interference pattern. It will produce the constructive interference pattern as well as destructive interference pattern. You can see we have in the figure an example of the use of the interference of the noise. Here we have the noise cancellation headphones. What the noise cancellation headphones are doing? They are checking what is the external noise. The same external noise in the exactly opposite phase is generated by the device. So if I have some external noise in some phase, right, so I will be generating the device. If let's suppose I am connecting my headphones with the laptop, so the laptop is going to generate one more sound wave which is exactly in opposite phase to the noise. So when these two combine, the destructive interference will happen and the noise will cancel out, right, properly. This is the application of interference of noise. Now coming to the beats. Beats are the periodic change in the sound intensity by the interference between two nearly identical sound waves. So if I have two nearly identical sound waves which are in phase, so we will be having the interference produced due to it, and this interference will be having some periodic changes. This periodic changes is called as the beats. Now beat frequency is the number of beats that are heard per second in hertz. That is my beat frequency. Coming to the Doppler effect. It is the change in the frequency of the sound wave as the source as well as the observer both are moving. So when the source is approaching towards the observer, source and observer are moving towards each other, right? So the distance between source and observer is reducing, like a train is moving towards you, right? So that time the frequency will increase, the sound frequency will increase. As the source move away from the observer, like train is moving away from you, that time the sound that the train is causing, right, so that sound will be having lower frequency. So I can represent F2 as F1 upon V plus minus Vs. So we will be having V plus Vs when I have the source moving away, right, and we have V minus Vs when the source is moving towards the observer. Now coming to the supersonic speed. Supersonic speed is the speed of an object which is traveling greater than the speed of the sound. What is the speed of the sound? At 0 degree Celsius, 332 meter per second. So if the object is traveling greater than the sound in a particular temperature, that time we are calling it as the supersonic speed. Now coming to the Mach number. Mach number is the speed of the object divided by the speed of sound, right? So obviously if the object is having the greater speed than the speed of the sound, that time the Mach number would be greater than 1, right? The subsonic speed. Subsonic speed is the lesser speed than the speed of the sound, right? When the object is traveling at a lesser speed than the speed of the sound, we have a subsonic speed. Coming to the sonic boom. Sonic boom is the sound that is produced from the aircraft when the aircraft is traveling at a supersonic speed, and it is harmful for the animals as well as plants as well as humans, right? So sonic boom is a negative phenomena that is observed. We are affected by it, right? So now I hope you understood all of the things that I have discussed so far. Now let's discuss some sample problems or numericals based upon this concept. So let's start our discussion with the problem number 1, which states the sound from a trumpet travels at a speed of 3.5 into 10 raised to power 2 meter per second in air. If the frequency of the note played is 3 into 10 raised to power 2 hertz, what is the wavelength of the sound wave. So the speed of sound is given, the frequency of the sound is given, we have to find out the wavelength, and for that we can use the universal wave equation V is equal to f lambda. Now from here what we can represent the lambda as, lambda will be V upon f. Now V is given, so lambda will be equal to 3.5 into 10 raised to power 2 meter per second upon the frequency, which is 3.0 into 10 raised to power 2 hertz. So when you compute it, it will be coming out to be equal to 1.2 meter, and this is the wavelength of the wave. So now coming to the next question, it states calculate the speed of sound in air when the temperature is 16 degrees Celsius. So temperature is given, we have to find out the speed of sound. So speed of sound is given by the formula 332 meter per second plus 0.59 meter per second upon degree Celsius into temperature. So V will be equal to 332 meter per second plus 0.59 meter per second per degree Celsius into the temperature, which is 16 degrees Celsius, right? So when you do the computation, it will come out to be equal to, V is equal to 341 meter per second. Now coming to the next question, it states a ship is anchored where the depth of the water is 120 meter and ultrasonic signal sent to the bottom of the lake returns in 0.16 second. What is the speed of sound in water? When we need to find out the speed of sound, which formula we will be using? The total distance traveled upon the total time taken. What is the total distance traveled? The depth of the water surface is given, right? So bottom of the lake is at 120 meter, right? But the signal is going towards the bottom and it will be coming back, right? So the time is taken for the signal to be going at the bottom, and from bottom it will be reflecting and coming at the upside location. So if this is D and this is also D, the total distance traveled will be equal to 2D, which is 240 meter. So now V will be equal to delta D upon delta T. So what is delta D? We have calculated 240 meter. What is delta T? It is 0.16 second. This is the time which is given, so it will be equal to 1.5 into 10 raised to power 3 meter per second is my velocity, right? So I hope you understood that question as well. Now coming to the next problem, it states a tuning fork with a frequency of 256 hertz. It sounded together on a note played on piano. So we have two frequencies over here. 9 beats are heard in 3 seconds. What is the frequency of the piano? Right, so beat frequency. What is the beat frequency? Beat frequency is the number of beats per second. If I know the total number of beats, if I know the total time, I can divide them, and this is how I can get the beat frequency. What is the total number of beats? 9 beats are heard in 3 seconds. So total number of beats are 9 and the total time is 3 seconds. So beat frequency will be equal to 3 hertz, right? So now beat frequency, here you can put the unit as well. So beat frequency is equal to difference of the two frequencies and their mod. So if I am having f1 is equal to 256, so f2 is in such a manner that the difference of f1 and f2 is 3. So now f1 minus f2 is equal to 3. So let's put f1 is 256 minus f2 is equal to 3. So when I take f2 is equal to 259, f2 is equal to 259, I will be having the difference of the frequency to be equal to 3 and their mod to be equal to 3. So now coming to the next problem, it states a car traveling at 100 km per hour sounds its horn at it as it approaches a hiker standing on the highway. If the car's horn has a frequency 440 hertz and the temperature of the air is 0 degrees Celsius, what is the frequency of sound wave reaching the hiker as the car approaches after it has passed the hiker? Right, so here we are given two situations, when the car is approaching the hiker, and second situation, it is moving away from the hiker. So now we know the frequency formula. When the source is moving, frequency is equal to f1 v upon v plus minus vs, right? This formula we know. So now f1 we know v, we know vs. Now when the car is approaching the hiker, we will be taking v minus vs in the denominator. So f2 will be equal to f1. What is f1? We are going to put the values only. So 440 upon what is v? It is 332 meter per second upon 332 minus vs. It is 100 km per hour, and 100 km per hour can be represented as 27.8 meter per second, right? So here in the denominator we have to take a negative sign. Now you can do the computations and it will come out to be equal to 4.8 into 10 raised to power 2 hertz. This is my F2, right? In the next case, when the car has passed the hiker and it is moving away from the hiker, in the denominator we have to take the positive, right? So F2 will be equal to F1, which is 440. What is V? It is 332 upon 332. Here we will be having plus and 27.8. Again you can compute it with the help of the calculator and it will come out to be equal to 4.0 into 10 raised to power 2 hertz. Right, so I hope you understood both of the cases. Now coming to the next problem, it states the speed of sound at the sea level and at 0 degree Celsius is 332 meter per second or approximately 1200 kilometer per hour. At an altitude of 10 kilometer, it is approximately 1060 kilometer per hour. So speed of sound is varying at the altitude and it is 1060 at 10 kilometer altitude. What is the Mach number of an aircraft flying at the 10 kilometer with the speed 1800 kilometer per hour? So we have now the speed of sound at 10 kilometer height. We now know what is the speed of aircraft at the 10 kilometer height. So Mach number is given as the speed of object divided by speed of sound, right? So 1800 is the speed of object in kilometer per hour and 1060 kilometer per hour is the speed of sound. So when you divide it, you will be getting 1.7. So Mach number for this aircraft is 1.7. I hope you understood all of the things related to it, and I hope you are going to download our Vaishali's e-learning mobile app as soon as possible. And don't forget to connect on our other platform like Instagram and LinkedIn, because we are creating content for you on those platforms as well and get benefited with those contents as well. If you have still not subscribed the channel, please do subscribe, and if you have still not liked the video, please like it as well. Thank you so much.